Hey, how is everyone doing? It is Monday night. Kind of a weird start time for me, and a atypical stream. This is a photo editing stream. Some people know I work for a website where I write reviews. As part of doing those reviews, I also tend to take a lot of photos. The review in question is actually for the headphones I'm wearing right now. Not that you can really see them super well on the screen. I'm kind of small sized at the moment. Suppose I could. Not really gonna make much of a difference, but you can kind of see him on my head. I suppose if I turn this way, you should get maybe a little bit of the light reflecting off the side. Oh no, wait. Ah, sorry, it's this side that's gonna show up a little better. Whatever. Anyway. So these are the Shure AONIC 50 Gen 2s. Really nice headphones. They are wireless, wired. So they can connect over Bluetooth. They can also connect over an aux cable, your typical like 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and also a USB-C cable. So they are super versatile for all intents and purposes. Anyway, a lot of things are kind of being tested on this stream, maybe more than I had anticipated. OBS also just had an update, so technically I'm kind of getting to see what OBS is like with this new version. They added actual YouTube integration, which is really weird. It's good in a way. Actually, it's maybe great, but I'm not convinced yet. The great thing about it is it actually puts concurrent viewers, chat rate, and view count in a part of the window that's useful, but it doesn't give you a chat box. I'm not sure if I like that. Anyway, so let's see. On to some actual editing. It is weirdly hot in this room. Anyway, so some of the things I've discovered just in early usage of this tablet is I don't fully know how to use some of the features properly. But I've been kind of goofing around and figured out a little bit of how to get this working. Some of the features don't work the way I'm used to from other tablets, which makes sense. So the tablet I'm using, also I guess I should talk about this. This is the Wacom. I've recently learned whatever, that the proper pronunciation for the company's name is Wacom. I object because I personally prefer to call it Wacom. It is way funnier to me. But this is the Wacom 1 Pen tablet. Oh, wait. I'm looking at the wrong name. Sorry, Pen Display 13 Touch. There's a lot of name to say it is a 13-inch screen. It's an actual screen. I'm looking at what's on my monitor right now, and yeah, I can actually draw and interact with a screen instead of just a black tablet. So I'm trying this out for not the first time, but it's going to be my first time actually doing editing on it. And it's neat. It seems pretty decently responsive. There are a couple of weird behaviors, but I think that comes down to maybe how I'm currently connected. And it's nothing bad so much as it is I think I just need to get used to a few things. By the way, this photo is blurry by my standards, but if you saw how I took this, honestly, this is impressive that this photo is usable. Because I shot this at about 135 millimeters, which for shooting handheld 135 millimeters is already nuts. But more importantly, I shot it when it was like nighttime. The exposure level on this has been cranked way up. I did some noise reduction on it. By the way, all the photos I'm editing, I've already done some cropping and color touch up. I would have normally done that during the photo stream, but time constraints kind of factored in pretty heavily on this one. So this is going to be more of a oops. I'm going to have to watch out for that. Actually, I wonder if I can make that go to the other. Can I make that appear on the other display instead? Because it's not like I need to keep that hidden. I just don't want it here. Nope. Evidently I can't. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't reveal anything that's not supposed to show. Oh, actually, I guess I could I disable that? That would probably actually work better. Yeah, I'll just quit it for now. That'll solve that. All right. So, anyway, one of my biggest problems with the tablet is actually not really the tablet's fault. It's that I don't have a great setup for like propping it up. Oops. All right, which tool am I on? Yeah, I want to be on that one. All right. So, yeah, most of this is going to be kind of touch-up sort of stuff. Mostly kind of blemish removal, things like that. Some of these are going to be a lot more interesting than others. Or I expect, I hope. Let's see. Yeah, I'm so used to using... One of the things that's really throwing me off, and I apologize, this is going to be kind of a... probably a bit of a consistent rant for me, but I'm so used to using the more traditional sort of cheap tablet. I know that's a maybe not the best way to say it, but the thing about that is, wait, why did that not? Yeah, okay. The thing is, what I can normally do with those tablets is hold down a button on the stylus to drag myself around the screen. What's causing me trouble here is instead of being able to hold down the stylus, for whatever reason, that doesn't seem to be working. Or sorry, I say hold down. I mean, there's a button, or rather two buttons on the stylus that I can generally use one of them to hold down. And in the process of doing that, it just sort of changes the... It changes it to a drag move. Can I do this instead? Yeah, I mean that works, but ooh, wait, what the hell? That was weird. Okay, well, that's not a great edit, but to be fair, by the time this gets resized, that'll vanish anyway. But yeah, one of the things that is really making this tricky is I have to use the keyboard a lot more than I normally would. Okay. And the keyboard is a little less reliable than I'm used to. Also, it's weird. I know that this is another thing I'm just trying to get used to, but every time I keep kind of looking up at my monitor because I'm so used to that. I've got an actual display here I can directly interact with, and instead of interacting with it, I'm staring at the monitor the whole time, which is not what I'm supposed to do with this. And instead of propping this on a good stand or something like that, which is definitely what would be ideal, I've actually got it propped on just some clothes. Anyway, with all that said, the thing is, I actually really mostly am, I think, happy with this image. Let's see. Is there anything jumping out at me that needs to be fixed? I mean, if I could, I would love to be able to retake this, but I was fairly happy with this image, and I don't want to go back up onto the actual mountaintop I had to go to in order to shoot this in the first place. I kind of wish there was something I could do about this logo to make it look a little better, but I think that ship has kind of sailed. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, oh, I should have been doing all that on another layer, but oh well. Okay, I'm saving that image. Let's do, actually, I'll do exports later. But just so I kind of am organized, I'm going to move that all the way over there. All right, here's one of the in-studio shots, at least looking a little bit nicer. But with in-studio shots, I also am a lot pickier about dust and things like that. So it's minor things, but oops, did I not pick the... There we go. Yeah, there's weird issues. I think it has more to do with the keyboard than anything. Not exactly sure, but oh, really quick, I wanted to see. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to check. I know I shouldn't care too much about this, but I wanted to see if I have lost subscribers just from starting these streams. I figure if people are unsubscribing just based on doing something like this as an offhand thing, I shouldn't be too worried about it, but you know, it's a thing to pay attention to. Okay, anyway, I'm just checking the white surface area down here. Now, I don't know if I'm going to fix it, but technically there is this line. This white surface is a tile. I don't know that I care enough about fixing the line and hiding it, because it's going to be in a few images. So it's a lot of work to take it out of multiple images. It'd be kind of worth it if it was just one. It's a lot if it's going to be, I think, like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, there's a second, a third. Yeah, okay, so there'd be a total of 3. It's more work than I think it's worth. But okay. Anyway. Get back to the right tool. And got to give it credit. This tablet does have a really nice display on it. Okay. Doing another sanity check on this white tile. Make sure I'm not leaving any big marks. Actually, I can zoom out a bit for this. I don't need to fix this one, but I think I'm going to. Wait, why is it? Oh. I keep using the wrong buttons because I'm working across 3 different buttons with multiple button combos until I kind of figure out what they are. It is definitely not what I'm used to. Okay. Interacting directly with the tablet is nice, though. I mean, it's that same difference as like using a computer screen versus using a smartphone. You know, that there is just something nicer about being able to touch and interact with things directly. Not to say that that's always going to be great. Believe me, it sometimes is way better using mouse and keyboard. But yeah, if you can't, oh, I should have done this on another layer again. I keep forgetting to do that. There's just so much more a part of my workflow in Photoshop, somehow not here. Hey Cosmo, how's it going? What are you up to this evening? And just to answer, because I have a feeling this question will come up, there's no plan for a game stream tonight. I'm just going to be doing these photo edits, which for the most part is going to be kind of just some... Oop, keep using the wrong button again. Is mostly going to be like touch-ups, kind of... Nothing. You were sleeping this whole... Wait, you were sleeping this whole day? Wait, why? Wasn't this a school day? Or was this a holiday and I didn't notice it? Oh, you went to school. Okay. I was gonna say, wait, what? How'd you sleep all day? Jealous. Yeah. There is... Some of this might be the software I'm using too. But there is a weird responsive issue where sometimes I hold down the space... Oh, that was an app switch. That's why it did that. Because I switched over to the YouTube window long enough to do a... to zoom in. Let's see. The annoying thing is, I think I would be way fast with this if it weren't for the fact that I don't have the key, this key set up right. Thanksgiving break is next week, so you're happy. Yeah, for real. I admit, I have absolutely no affinity for Thanksgiving now. But when I was in school, oh, you better believe it, Thanksgiving was... I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but it was pretty great. I mean, just the mere fact that you could have a couple days off, instant win. I'm gonna boost that opacity back up a little, because right now most of the edits I'm making I can do pretty safely. So gotta fix your biology grade right now. Yikes. Dare I ask, how are you doing? Like, is it doing real bad? Is it doing just in the it's recoverable, but you know, it's never going to be great? I remember you talking about it. I don't off the top of my head remember what you said it was. Let's see, where am I? How deep am I? Yeah, I'm way too deep in this image here. Let's see. Kind of smooth that into... It's not the prettiest. Let's try... Yeah, that looks a little more natural. You've got an F? Oh, yeah, that's definitely got to be fixed. It's recoverable, but probably end up with a C, which is fine. Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, look, it's high school... what is it, high school? No, well, whatever. School is one of those things where... Yeah, you... Ideally, you know, in a perfect world, you want good grades. In a realistic world... Like, the grades don't actually matter once you get anywhere near... Like, if you're going to college, I don't know if you plan to. If you're going to college, the grades matter a tiny bit for, like, maybe getting a scholarship or getting in. They do not matter in the least outside of that. No one will ever look at your high school grades again. They're basically useless. For years, I've had the opinion, actually, had a awkward conversation once with a friend's brother and their parents. I was hanging out with this friend once, and her brother was getting a terrible grade in math, and he didn't want to touch math. He wanted nothing to do with it. He was just all he was very interested in college, but he didn't want to do anything with his high school math class. And I the parents, knowing that I was in college at the time, were like, "Oh, hey, can you say something to him? Can you talk to him?" And I sat there, I listened to him talk for a few minutes, and I turn around and say, "Okay, listen, I'm just going to tell you something right now. These classes don't matter in the least. None of this stuff matters. It's all garbage." The look on the parents' faces as I'm saying this, like, they went from, "Oh, good, he's about to talk to him," to, "Oh, no, we got to shut this guy up, like, now." And I mean, I basically just said, "Look, you know, all of this stuff is a total waste of your time. Most of what you're learning now will never be used again. I'm not old enough to say that you'll never use this stuff the rest of your life, but I'm old enough to know that common sense, most of it is just not applicable. Like, it doesn't matter." Anyway, then I proceeded to throw the curveball that he wasn't expecting and the parents loved, which is, look, the reason you have to do all this stuff is to prove that you can do it. Colleges care that you can go into a class and walk out of it having learned something. They don't care what you actually learned in high school. They care that you learned how to learn in high school. They care that you have some ability to like prove it, like learn and be a student. That's what they care about. They're not interested in you having done AP classes in high school. They're interested in the fact that you were willing to show up and do extra work. They're not interested in they're not interested in the fact that you I mean, realistic. Okay, with a few exceptions, they mostly don't care what clubs you joined. They don't care they don't care if you got detention a few times. They only care about stuff that affects them, and that's a real short list of what actually affects them. Austin, what camera took this? Now, so first off, the easy answer on that is a Sony a7 III. Bit of an older camera at this point, but you know, decent camera. For reference, this is the actual photo, not the super overly zoomed in look that I've been giving everyone. And I'm editing it way too close to detail. I shouldn't even be wasting time with this. But more important, actually, what was the... Do I have this in the metadata? I think I should. Yeah, okay, I shot this, more importantly than the camera, I shot this on the Sony 18 to 200 millimeter power zoom lens. It's not actually... So this is meant for a... APS-C, or this particular lens is meant for an APS-C sensor, but Sony cameras do really well with their full frame sensors using an APS-C lens. So you can just attach the lens, the camera goes into a mode where it only uses part of the sensor, and it still shoots a really good image. And yeah, so... And I shot this at 50, looks like 53 millimeters. I don't know if that's pre or post crop calculation. But actually, I'm betting it's probably pre-calculation. So should have been an actual. So that would work out to 78, 77 millimeters. Effective. Something like that. Hello, David. How's it going? Let's see. Cosmo, you ended up getting a C last quarter in biology. Okay. Hey, if you can pull it from an F to a C, then I'd say that's good enough. You got all B's and C's in the other classes. That works. In theory, like later high school, I know it's a hard thing to say, but try to get those better grades in the late stage of high school. It looks good if you can show that you have improved. This is a weird point to make, but as long as you're not going for like Harvard or something, or any of the Ivy Leagues, I should actually say, if you're going for college at all, then showing that you got better at the tail end, a lot of colleges will actually take that as, you know, you're serious. You don't have to necessarily put on the perfect show. You just need to... Harvard definitely won't accept you. Man, Harvard wouldn't have accepted me. And granted, I did get 1 or 2 bad grades in high school. Nothing too bad. I didn't get any F's or anything. I think I got, if I remember correctly, in high school, I think I got like I got on average like maybe 1 C a term, mostly B's, with some, or actually with plenty of A's. I got a lot of A's and B's with the occasional C's. That's more what it was. And a lot of it had to do with just, it was honestly a really bad school. Um, but, you know, what are you going to do? Rural Oregon is not the place to go for a quality education. Um, and yeah, Harvard is crazy hard to get into, definitely, but more importantly, it's crazy expensive to get into. Bear in mind, a lot of students don't get into Harvard because of grades. They get in because somebody paid. Someone paid a lot of money to get them into Harvard. Whether it's themselves or their parents, someone spent a lot of money to put someone in Harvard. That is very much one of the schools where not everybody, but a whole lot of people pretty much got there based on what I'm going to call bribery. Oh, you think your sister could have gotten in? Well, congrats to her. Like, just with the grades? That's definitely good. She got a bunch of college offers? That's really good then. The thing is, I knew I wouldn't have the money to go anywhere big. So, since I grew up in Oregon, I was kind of stuck with state colleges. My options were U of O, which is great if you want to go to a football school. Otherwise, that school is kind of notoriously a party school. And not strictly, like, there's more to it than that, but yeah, it's very much just party school. I could have gone to OSU, the Oregon version of that, because there's like a dozen colleges that all call themselves OSU. And that one, I almost went there. I really considered it, and then I found out what their program looks like. They basically, I don't like that edit. They basically do this thing where you do your first 2 years kind of as general courses, and then you get 2 more years in the actual program. The problem with this, and to this day, I'm so baffled that they actually thought this was acceptable. The way they do it is the first half of the year, they actually teach you classes in your program. The second half of the year, they farm you out to other companies as an unpaid intern. And by unpaid, that's actually not entirely true. They collect your pay. When I found that out, I practically walked out, like almost on the spot. They collect your pay. You pay to go to college. You pay to go to this college. And then they're like, yeah, we're just going to rent you out to somebody else. You're going to work for them. It's going to cost you money working for them. and and we're just going to, we're just going to make money off of you. That was an instant hard no for me. Let's see, Cosmo. But she works at Starbucks instead of going to college. Money. I mean, that's the perpetual issue. Is I know a few people, like myself included to some extent, but if you don't have the money to go to a good college, you're not going to go to a good college, or you just don't go to college at all. In my case, I went to the one college I found that could actually kind of hit all the marks, or what I thought hit all the marks, and that was OIT. Really good college in a sense, but it is like the antithesis of a social life. the city was like, there's no polite way to say it, so I'll just say it's depressing. Like, it is a tiny little city. It doesn't have much going on. It is boring as can be. Such an unpleasant place to be. That's the original OIT. They actually expanded and have a second campus now that's in Portland, Oregon. Totally different situation. And if I could have gone there at the time, I would have in a heartbeat. Okay, I think I'm happy enough with that. I don't see any other dust specks or anything that needs cleaning up. I gotta get used to this. So again, for anyone who's joining later, I'm using a different tablet than I normally use for editing. This is the Wacom One Pin Display 13-inch. I'm not used to using a tablet with a screen in it. This is a review unit, so I'm trying things out with it. Oh, I forgot. Let's get rid of, or one thing I can do is that and get a little bit more screen space. Yeah, I've got to remind myself, like I keep having to remind myself, to look down at this instead of looking at the much larger screen I have in front of me, which I'm not. That might be kind of defeating the purpose. if I'm staring at the smaller screen instead of the larger screen, that may not really be the winning strategy, but whatever. Cosmo, your dad paid for her to go to college. She actually went for like a year and dad paid for it, but she dropped out. Oh, bad times. I'd ask why she dropped out, but I have a feeling there's probably a lot of reason to that. There's usually a lot of reason for when people drop out. It's almost never just one thing. I mean, it can be, but 9 times out of 10, when people drop out, it's like they're having trouble with classes, or they're or like social life is not what they thought it was going to be, or they're missing home. And it's never just one of these things. It's always like 2 or 3. And usually, not always, one thing usually causes the others. Let's see. Yeah, sister doesn't even talk to dad anymore. Ooh. That's sad. I'm sorry. Dad wasted like 15,000. Yeesh. She dropped out due to missing family. Yeah. I remember more than a few people at the college I went to. It was very obvious that some of them would be there, like, seemingly fine for a few weeks, if it like, or maybe even a couple of terms, and then just one day they kind of disappeared. And usually, like, you'd hear somebody say, oh yeah, I was talking to him just like a week ago, and they said how much they missed their family. Guess they did. And then yeah, they just disappeared the next day or whatever. It's weird, because that's one of the things that like in TV show and movies, anytime they try to do the whole, like, a student disappears, and like an RA or administrators or whatever say, oh well, sometimes students just do that. Anytime they do this in the show, it's like, oh no, this never really happens. They make kind of a thing out of saying something's fishy. And it's like, no, that's actually very real. It happens all the time. There are so many students that just sort of cash out one day, and you don't really know why. By the way, did you hear like 2 or 3 really loud beeps just a second ago? I'm curious if that was picked up or not. Because it happened on my end, and I'm not supposed to have that audio capture happening, but I think it could have. No? Excellent. Good. It's not that it matters. I just pressed like a weird combination of buttons on the keyboard, and it made a needlessly loud beep, or few needlessly loud beeps. But in the offhand chance that like I can't even think of what would happen, but if there were a sound that indicated something that shouldn't be known to people, I'd rather people didn't hear it. Okay. Kind of do a little cleanup on this back wall. Ooh, that looked bad. How about sample from there? That kind of cleans it up. Okay, and anything on this white tile? But yeah, anyway. So Cosmo, out of curiosity, are you planning college? David, I feel like college isn't for everyone. Yeah, I'd strongly agree with that. Not only, well, so college I think is, there are some people who are sort of the college types, but college isn't for them, if that sort of makes sense. There are other people who they do okay with college, but they would do better with something else. Okay, kind of clean that up, and let's, I just want to blend that out a little bit. Let's use from over there, and it's not great, but I'll take it. Yeah, once this gets saved to a small resolution, that won't even, the detail will just sort of vanish from that. You're not planning college right now? You're trying to be a journalist? Not sure if journalism is really a college needed thing. What kind of journalist? TV, written, YouTuber? If you're going for TV, generally speaking, college is, I mean, I can't say this with a ton of confidence, but I've heard this many, many times. College is kind of almost a necessity. Broadcast communications is one of those things where it kind of gets gate kept. There's a lot of gatekeeping in that sort of area. They really, really like people to do college. If you're going for written, it depends, and also don't. You're a good person, I think. I'm hoping. If you go that route, there are almost no jobs left in sort of classic newspaper journalism. I'm being so lazy with some of these edits, but this photo kind of came out a bit blurrier than I thought it would. But I'm definitely not reshooting this. So, not that it's the hardest setup, I just don't want to put all the stuff back in place to shoot it. And again, you know, by the time it's that size in a web page, or if it's even that big, it's gonna be like that big, maybe that. No one's gonna notice. But yeah, for like newspaper journalist, there's college involved. It's ideal to have college. If you don't have college, it's not the end of the world. You can get in, but it's a lot harder. Though to be fair, if you get a job, or not get a job, but if you have like a school paper or something like that, try to get in at the school paper. Because that'll carry you a long way. If you can show multiple years of being in your like school paper, writing for that's totally different. That gets you a lot of credibility. Let's see. Written like I want to work with my cousin when he does archaeology. Okay. So yeah, as long as you're good, as long as your writing skills are good, and depending on the kind of journalism you're doing, obviously, like, this can be relatively easy to actually get jobs. The catch: journalism is dying in the worst ways. Take it from a person who is a journalist. By the way, I didn't go to college for journalism. I happen to always be a decent writer. I needed to really brush up on like grammar rules, but don't know why I even bothered to fix that. That tiny little thread or hair or whatever was barely visible even zoomed in like this. But the thing is, I had a different skill that I brought to the table. So instead of being a instead of being the traditional journalist type. Wait a second, why is that? Where's the one I edited earlier? Okay, for some reason that got reordered. That's weird. It's really weird. I'm actually gonna save and close these. Okay. And David said, either way, think it would be a good idea to take a journalism course to understand the ethics. Yeah, it does depend a little bit on what kind of journalism you're going to do. Also, man, I really hate saying this. You can't imagine how much I hate saying this, but one sort of shortcut to getting into journalism, it's not the best shortcut for reasons that will be very obvious shortly, but writing for like news blogs on the internet can kind of get you on that road. If you don't want to go to college but you just want to get straight to working, trying to get in as a news blogger on the internet can go a long way. It's kind of, the thing is, that can teach you some real bad habits. And it is one of the worst industries right now. Like, openly hostile to people. And unfortunately, the catch is that's sort of what's taking over the news space. So if you're looking for journalism, like actual news journalism, it's rough these days. because the almighty dollar has really, really taken over this industry's existence. Writing deal posts will be taken over by AI. There's no will be about it. And also, I'm going to say something that is kind of cringy, but also terribly true. This sounds so terrible, but it's honest. Writing stuff like deal posts, we're at the point where writing it with AI versus having somebody in whatever country, you feel free to imagine countries of your choice, where pay rates are already really low. Thing is, a lot of sites are actually having having the discussion of like, which is cheaper for us, pay those people less or pay for AI. And the sad part is, paying for AI actually sometimes turns out to be more expensive, or rather they can hustle people down to terrible pay rates to the point where it can actually be cheaper just to still use humans for it. We do not live in the best timeline, is what I'm saying. Okay. I have gotten by really well without too much in the way of dust on this white tile. There are little bits of surface stuff that I like to clean up, but nothing particularly noticeable. Okay, let's see, can I get away with just, yeah, a couple of quick taps there just to get rid of those bright spots. Oops, that was a goof. But yeah, finding ways to practice your writing, if you're gonna get into news, like that's the thing to do. Practice writing, get as fast as possible at writing, because honestly that's the bigger issue. Yikes, those are some that's some fringe right there. Oops, wrong tool. There we go. Okay. Just tone those colors down a whole lot. They don't have to be completely blurred out into nothing, but just toning down the weird color fringing. But yeah, my best advice, if you want to be a journalist, like news journalist, consider carefully, because it is a rough industry to be in right now. Also, there's no way to say this nicely. The current political climate also makes it real risky to actually be a political journalist. And I kind of wonder if other types of journalism are going to become more and more targets of that. I really hope not, but you know, it's one of those things, it's hard to say. To be fair, if the kind of journalist, like you mentioned archaeology, the type of journalism that kind of turns into could be a little bit more, or not could be, but is definitely a lot more practiced, studied. The challenge to it, obviously, you have to know the topics yourself pretty well. But usually you can like take your time, and the writing is a lot more sort of academic in its nature, though that can also be the drawback. Let's see. There's just enough dust specks here. I kind of almost don't want to try to sort them all. How much are they going to be obvious? Maybe I'll just, yeah, if I just hit some of these slightly larger ones. If I can zoom out and notice it, it's large enough. If I don't see it on a zoom out, it's too tiny. Okay, I'm gonna call that one good. Oh, 1 second to stretch the back a little. Man, this chair sucks. Oh, one thing, let's get rid of that UI, get a little bit more of this on screen. Okay, and what I think I'm going to try doing, I don't want to do a lot of burlap fixes, but I think if I... Yeah. Oop. Just do a little bit of touch up on a couple of these spaces. It'll hide that this burlap was sort of janky. I love how good these tools work sometimes. Because I am not putting a whole lot of... I mean, I've done this enough that I kind of know, like, little... Or I've sort of figured out, like, little tricks on where to sample from and kind of how to scribble it in. Because you don't want to go too big or too small. You don't want to get really messy about it, but for the most part, I'm not doing the work here. It's a software. That one's a little less elegant, but no one would be able to see that zoomed out, so I'm good with it. And what I really care about is not making this perfect. I care about making it not distracting. I don't want people looking at the image and going, ooh, you know, why is it like this? What happened here? It looks ugly. When they should be focusing on the headphones. Didn't like how that turned out. Let's try this. Yeah, that looks not perfect, but looks better than it was. David, if I had a choice, would I go infrastructure, cloud, or AI machine learning? I need more context. Is this, first off, is this a question you're considering right now in some way? Second, like what sort of, I think that question needs, yeah, it just needs more context, because and is this like learning to be IT for these things? Is it learning to be a developer for these things? Is it just really a question directed truly at me personally? Like, what would I personally want to do? Or like, is this recommendation for somebody else? Because yeah, believe it or not, all of those things I think really play in. Okay, I am definitely going to do how's that looking? Not sure I'm getting out of that what I want. You just like to hear what I prefer? Okay, so if I was doing this today, that's hard. So I think realistically, it's not like AI is actually taking over development in the way that people think it is. I mean, there's an element of AI turning up in various different capacities, so it's not like it's the most unheard of thing for it to replace some people's jobs. But strictly speaking, I don't think AI is going to be replacing a whole lot of like cloud infrastructure engineers anytime soon. Okay, what I think I need to do is we need to do a little bit of rubber stamp. Let's see. Real lightweight opacity on this. So yeah, we can bump up the opacity a bit more. We don't have all day for this. But yeah, I would say in general. Now we can kind of fade that line. Yeah, that looks better. So in general, I would say there's not a big like reason to be afraid of AI within that industry. So if it's like kind of the competitive pick one to avoid, or I don't know if what I'm saying is really coming across, but any fears about AI taking over for the cloud infrastructure side, I don't think those are warranted yet. But it's something people have talked about. Let's see. But to clarify, girlfriend is contemplating switching it up. She works in front end and is thinking about branching into something different. Okay. So I would say, okay, and this kind of actually breaks into a little bit of the question I was going to hit you with. So to consider infrastructure cloud, to an extent, saying it that way usually means somewhat IT related. To talk about AI machine learning is more development related. And not strictly. There are definitely development jobs that involve building cloud services and things like that. But usually if people are talking about cloud and infrastructure in those terms, it's usually kind of meant as IT side. Which, just as a casual comment, I would actually recommend against for anyone who's already a developer. The money for most IT jobs is worse. The hours are awful. They're so bad. Because you have to be on call for a bunch of stuff that normal developers don't have to do. And let's sample from over there. So yeah, it just as a general principle, it's rough to get into doing IT sort of stuff. If we're talking more like building back-end services, which is what I have a feeling she's looking more into, like doing database work, or building like actual web services, web APIs, or any kind of APIs, that stuff, it's generally actually better pay and easier hours, but the work is a little bit more dry. And a lot of times you get more optimization hungry situations. You get managers who are a lot more concerned with how many requests can this API handle, kind of a thing. And if that's the case, that can get a little bit unfun. But it all depends. And look, the thing is, if someone who is doing back end said, oh yeah, I'm thinking about switching it up and going to front end development, I'd probably be saying kind of the same thing, except in reverse. It's like, the problem with front end development is you typically have people kind of giving you arbitrary complaints about your AI, or not AI, your UI. You have constantly a push to support different people's like A11Y needs. Basically, wait, is that language translation, or is that, no, that's language translation, sorry. I think that's language translation. But anytime you're doing front end development, you always have people kind of saying, oh, you need to support people with sight issues. You need to, if you have sound on the page, you need to find some way to indicate that a sound played. You have to support all of these things that you may not have much knowledge or experience in, and it's kind of tedious as can be to learn those things. So that's the sort of stuff where a lot of times I might tell someone in the back end, hey, you might not want to go front end because this stuff's kind of awful. But to someone in the front end who's been doing this for a few years, most of the time they're like, oh yeah, no, I've done this. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal because you took some time, learned it, and it's, you know, it is what it is. I've done back end and front end development. The funny thing is, almost every job that I've had that I went in for back end, I ended up doing front end development unexpectedly, and vice versa. So the funny thing about it is, a lot of times it's worth it to be good at both anyway, even if you're going to kind of specialize or focus in one, you should probably be able to do both. So as much as I'm saying, you know, it might be kind of rough to get into one or the other, it's something worth being okay at or learning how to do. And as far as AI goes, I think it's an industry that is going to have two very interesting things happen. One, I think that there's going to be ridiculous money in it. So if your girlfriend wants to make bank, she should probably be rushing. I mean, actual rushing to learn AI right now. Because this is definite 100% land grab with AI. And being one of the people who's in it, even now, like if you jump in on it now, it's a good place to be jumping in. And the potential to get kind of rich off of it is very, very good. That said, I think there is going to be a huge bubble burst with AI. As someone who just knows Python, what the hell is considered back-end? Database stuff? Okay, so back-end. There are a few ways to describe back-end, but the best way to describe it, well, okay, I'll just give a few examples, kind of. Well, these aren't really examples. This is just different types of back-end work. But yes, database stuff is one of the things. Building web services, and by web services I'm talking about like building, let's say, the APIs that an application might call. So let's say just for example, a company they want to build some tool for, actually here's an easy example. Let's say a company like Dell. I'm actually describing a real thing that I've seen and worked on some code for. A company like Dell, they have an ordering system that all of their sales reps use. And actually everybody in some way, shape, or form uses this. So they had somebody sit down and build a web front end to this thing. So I'm assuming your girlfriend works on this kind of thing. When most people say front end, they usually are talking web stuff, but not always. A lot of times they're talking web pages though. And so their interface is what the sales reps are working with. That's what they interact with. Behind the scenes, that web page is talking to a web service or some kind of back-end thing. And by back-end, we're talking about some monolithic piece of code that has an interface to it. And by interface, we're talking like function calls. We're talking ways that other code can talk to it. That back-end is where all the business logic happens. Sorry, I'm using the word back-end to describe back-end a lot. But yeah, that's the thing. It's I guess if I was giving sort of the real world metaphor for it, it's sort of like, let's say you go to the DMV. No, that's a bad example. Man, I really just keep going back to ordering systems as the most logical explanation. But yeah, that really is it. I mean, front end is the stuff that people use directly. The back end is what that front end code talks to. And most software projects of any decent size, someone is working on the interface, whether it's a web thing, whether it's client applications like, you know, built for Windows or Mac or smartphones. And then somewhere is a server. Back-end code lives on the server. And that's what handles all of your business logic. That's what decides if that's what handles things like credit card transactions. That's what handles confirming that somebody has permission to actually be editing some sort of data or accessing something. The back end makes all the decisions. The front end is just there, generally speaking, to be pretty. It's the pretty interface that people need in order to actually get something done. Passive's way too low for that. There we go. So yeah, it's database stuff, but it can be a lot more. It can be, again, like credit card transactions. It can be the part that talks to other services, other websites, other companies. Backend is basically the thing that does all the complicated things that people don't really see happening in code. They just see on a screen like the waiting icon saying, oh, you know, you've got we're busy processing something. Back-end code is the processing. The front-end code just tells you that it's processing. Which some of this is overcomplicating the answer. Some of it is I think actually undercomplicating the answer. Okay. Oh. Whoa. What the? That's a weird little hair. Or whatever it is. Alright. That hid nicely. So, yeah, I went to college mostly as a back-end developer. So, I took a class, or was it 2? It may have been 2 classes on databases, which I was huge on databases. I loved database work for a long time. Kind of fell out of it over the years because of the work that I was doing at AP, but yeah, databases are so much more efficient when it comes to just how long it takes to build out something for storing that code, or sorry, storing data. So tempted to do more cleanup on that logo, but I don't think anyone's going to really notice it against the backdrop of the much brighter burlap. I mean, when you're looking at this, like, oh, that the thing that bothers me is that that line right there for the E. That is a little too much. So SQL or no SQL? That is the question. When I was going to college, it was all SQL. There was, I mean, technically, document databases did exist, but nobody considered those a thing at that point in history. Like, it wasn't something anyone looked at and thought, oh yeah, this is the way of the future. Okay, what I'm gonna do is get this real tiny and just paint a little bit of darkness into this, and especially thin it out some. Okay, and kind of gonna do the same there. It's a little bright still. Maybe we'll bump to 15% opacity. That ought to speed this up just a little more. I can see it going darker, so it's doing the job. Let me get this one a little too. Okay. Yeah, that's a little more subtle. It's not perfect, but perfect is the enemy of good. Oh man, I'm feeling, it's late enough and I'm feeling lazy enough. I don't want to try to fix all the burlap again. Though I'm not seeing some of the same problems as the previous one. Though I have definitely spent too long on some of these images. Let's... All right. Yeah, I gotta be honest, as much as it's cool to have a display right in front of me, it is still so hard not to just look up at the much bigger screen that I also have in front of me. Oops. What the? Why is that not drawing? Yeah, everything's fine. All the settings should be right. Yeah, that should be fine. Why is this giving me... Is the brush size? Oh, I bet. Yep, that was the issue. Brush size was goofy. Okay. That solves that. Good. I'm not crazy. I'm just not as good at this as I should be. Okay. This one should be mostly dust cleanup. Actually, let's just go full opacity. I think most of these are gonna just vanish with a quick swipe. Not if I sample from the wrong place, though. So yeah, I gotta say, I probably, if I was going to college today, if I was just thinking like, what should I study, and if I had the option for it, I would probably go AI, just because, again, I think there's a good land grab to have, and studying AI is kind of going to be a good field to have a background in. Oops. If you're gonna sort of self-study, I think the cloud infrastructure stuff is probably going to be easier to self-study. Wonder what's required for AI development. I wish I knew where I heard it, but I was listening to this interview with someone. Oh wait, this was oh man, I'd never be able to oh no, wait, I might be able to find this. Let's see. Android developers backstage podcast AI. The episode would have been, do these have dates? Yes, they do. Hooray. Okay, the episode would have been in roughly 2019, I think. So, what I'm looking for, just for context, there was this, as you could probably pick out from what I'm saying, there was this episode of a podcast called Android Developers Backstage. Is this it? I am almost certain this is it. It talked pretty heavily about, oh wait, no, that would be the wrong year. Okay, that's not it. I need to go further back. That might have been actually been the same group though, same people. Okay, I just heard that one, so go back a little bit further to so what I'm looking for, here we go. Almost certain this is it. Look for episode 120, machine learning, on the Android Developers Backstage podcast. I can even post the link to it in chat. I think this is right. I could be wrong. There is every possibility it's the wrong episode, but I don't think there are any others having to do with AI, like heavily having to do with AI at this point in time. And it wasn't that long ago that I heard this, which is how I know what I'm looking for. And I know it's funny to say, oh, it wasn't that long ago that I heard a podcast from 2019. I'm catching up. I'm catching up very slowly, as it were. Technically, it's possible that the one I listened to was actually episode 102, titled ML All the Things, but I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure I went a little more recent than that. Anyway, the reason I bring that one up is the person that they talk to spends a little bit of time actually kind of talking about different AI models and what kind of knowledge has grown in the field of AI, and it is basically just sort of referencing a lot of this sort of foundational work. And it's funny because, very notably, this is a podcast from 4 years earlier. You got to figure AI has changed a lot in that time. It has grown wild and wacky. But a lot of the fundamentals are actually still kind of the same. I mean, if I've learned anything from developing software for years and years, it's that a lot of the fundamentals don't really change. They just get easier to apply. So all too often you can just kind of learn one thing somewhere and then just keep applying it until eventually one of these days someone will come along and be like, oh, hey, I can completely replace that thing that you've been doing. And it's cool when that happens, but it doesn't happen that often. And when it does happen, usually knowing and understanding it still does not stop being valuable. It just means that you're doing your job differently than you would have before. That being said, you also need to really keep close tabs on how things change, because it is a fast-moving industry in a lot of really obnoxious ways. Okay, I think I got everything on most of the ear cups. Just gotta fix that. Again, I'm looking at the big display when I want to be looking at the small one. In theory, I want to be looking at the small one. Okay, I think I'm not going to clean up the burlap on this one. Okay. David, remember the IO when they put the AI with Pluto demo or whatever it was? Thought that was the dumbest thing I saw. Boy, what are you wrong? No, it was dumb. It really was a dumb thing because they did the gimmicky thing, you know. Pretend you're Pluto. Pretend you're a glass of beer. I don't remember if that's the one they did, but I thought it was. Pretending to be a thing and answering questions from that context, that is a gimmick. Not to say that it doesn't have some value to it in a way, but it is a gimmick. It's not a real application. It's a neat thing that you do for people who don't understand what AI is or anything more than that. It's a good showboat sort of thing, but it's not actually like an applicable technology in that way. So yeah, I don't think that was I don't think you were wrong at all. I think what happened is, one, the gimmick became popularized thanks to ChatGPT, and moreover, right, at least for 6 months, that's what everyone was excited about, was the gimmick. They weren't really using it for that, but that's what everyone thought of AI to be. And then all the things that people were actually building with AI, and bear in mind, if you look around, there are a lot of products that were using AI before ChatGPT popped up. And then ChatGPT happened, and all of a sudden a bunch of products that were developing AI stuff. It's not like all of a sudden they just dropped what they were doing and started building AI. All of a sudden, products that had AI in them or were about to launch features with AI, they all started launching their stuff because it was a very hot time to launch AI things. So we were not seeing ChatGPT changed the industry. We just saw ChatGPT incentivize a lot of companies to do or to really put focus on that aspect of what they were already doing. Anyway, can I talk about the Wacom? I'm trying to say it correctly, because believe me, every time I say it, all I want to say is whack 'em. Anyway, can I talk about it? Yeah. So this is a full-size screen. It actually looks, if it weren't for having kind of a thick bezel on it, which is a good thing, because this is something you're going to pick up and hold. Like, having a bezel on it is a good thing. But it is a full screen. It looks kind of like a MacBook screen from before they shrunk the bezels, and obviously without a notch. Unsurprisingly, I think you can already guess it uses a stylus. No real surprise there. That's the way you wanted to pronounce it too. See, for years I always thought it was Wacom. Yeah, sorry. It's weird because now that I pronounce it wrong other ways and pronounce it right, it's now hard to say the way that I thought it was supposed to be. I always thought it was Wacom. And I never really knew or had any reason for it. It was the thing that kind of made the most sense to me. And then, very quickly I got to kind of making fun of it, and it's like, nah, it's Wacom. Which just sounds like something out of like a cartoon, like a Hanna-Barbera, like it, I don't know what specifically, but it's a sound you kind of want to make with regards to I don't know, like the coyote getting his head clocked. Like, you can picture the Roadrunner zipping up and saying whack 'em, and then just zipping off. Obviously he didn't make those sounds, but he was just a beep beep. But still, you get the idea. It just has that nice comical sound to it. But yeah. Anyway, it is Wacom, or at least that's the pronunciation that they have on their YouTube channel for some of their products and how to set them up. Anyway, this tablet is kind of, in a way, really, really cool. What it does is it mirrors or acts as a display for your computer. It has two USB-C ports in it. One of them that goes to a power brick. The other one goes to your laptop or desktop if you're using one. And it works exactly like a monitor out, except it's also a touch input. It's surprisingly simple in that way. And it does have a couple of other functions. Or it supposedly does. I don't really know what they are. I haven't really tried to use them so much. But responsiveness seems pretty good, though part of the problem I have with, or had with it, I still kind of have it a little bit. And I think that this is because of the way I have it set up, configured right now. But I am getting a little bit of input lag that I didn't have the first time I used this. And I think it's because I'm mirroring a screen off of this one. And so I think because of that, it is causing a little bit more input lag than there should be. It's a small detail, but I'm just slightly aware of it. I do need to, or I'd like to have or figure out how to properly configure some of the stuff for the input controls, because right now, and I talked about this at the start of the stream, but I am using a keyboard side by side with this to activate a lot of stuff, and some of it I shouldn't have to do. Now obviously if I'm just focusing on the screen, which actually I really just have to keep trying to force myself to do, I could be using the stylus to pick controls a little bit more consistently. The thing that would drive me nuts is I would, in order to drag around the image, I have to switch to the hand tool, and then when I want to go make edits, I switch back to something else, and then I'd have to switch back to the hand tool again. I'm moving around too much for that to make sense, so I've been using the keyboard instead. Because I can have that repair tool picked, and I can just hold down the space bar to switch to the hand tool, and then when I let go, it goes back to the normal tool that I was on. And even then, in order to zoom out, I have to hold down the space bar and command button. In order to pick my sample source, I have to move over and hit the option, or hold the option button when I tap. Like, I'm using a lot of the keyboard, so I don't have a total choice in this. I kind of have to use the keyboard a decent bit to work quickly, or semi-quickly. I feel like I'm kind of slow on this compared to what I normally am. Oh yeah, I need to fix, this is the smallest, dumbest thing, but there was this tiny little hair that got stuck in this switch. Do I need to fix it? No. Am I going to fix it? You better believe it. Drove me absolutely crazy when I spotted it, because I knew, oops, did that bad. Wait. That looks very weird. Let's lower that opacity just a little bit. Okay. And I'm just gonna make sure to sort of even out that it doesn't look right, that it doesn't look perfect, but I think no one's really gonna notice it. Okay. And then just a little bit of, yeah, we're just gonna do a little bit of cleanup on a couple of these spots. So yeah, anyway, it is a really nice tablet to be working on. I like it, but it's such an adjustment from what I'm used to. And it's also, I mean, it's not overly heavy, but it is kind of, but it is a slightly chonky boy. One of the, and I think that's, I don't want to say made worse, but it's made more obvious by, or made more noticeable by the fact that it's got two fairly dense USB-C cables plugged into the top of it. Well, top or bottom. Technically, you can have these running at the bottom, but I didn't. And if I had a good stand, that's a big part of this. I have this right now sitting on some clothes. Just to prop this up, I have this just sitting on some clothes to kind of give me a little bit of angle, and it's not ideal. I was looking for a tablet stand that I have, and that I think would have been a good thing to use for this, maybe, but I couldn't find it. I know it's somewhere in this office, I just don't know where I last moved it to. I've moved a bunch of stuff around as I try to clean, and it got hidden from me, by me. What was I using previously? Another Wacom. So, just for reference, let's see. Pull up OBS, switching. Okay, so for reference, this is the tablet. There we go. This is the tablet I've been using. I think it is a 8-inch tablet, maybe 7-inch, something like that. I know it's got to be roughly about that size because I've been keeping it stored, or not stored, but sort of protected in this stretchy fabric case that used to fit a 7-inch tablet. And I bought that one I bought it on a Amazon Prime Day deal a few years back. For, I don't know, I want to say like $30, something like that. It uses, let's see, I believe it's micro USB. Maybe it's mini. Okay, it's micro. And it's a decent tablet, but you know, it's on the small side. I'm reviewing I'm reviewing two tablets at once. The smaller, lower priced one I'm reviewing is a noticeably bigger. This is this what, a 10-inch? Might have to look that up later. I swear this is a 10-inch tablet. And basically, you know, same kind of thing, just larger tablet. But it does connect over USB or Bluetooth. And it will connect to a phone, which is kind of the neat thing. Or, well, sorry, it'll connect to Android devices. It actually does not support iOS, which is rough. And then, let's see. Sorry, I'm holding it upside down because the cables are attached, but this is the big boy that I am using right now for editing. And, well, as you can see, okay, there are the two cables running out of it. These are big, chunky, heavy-duty cables. Yeah, it is really nice. Nice high resolution. Let's see, what was the resolution on this thing? Whoop. Wait. Out of curiosity, what just happened on OBS? Huh, okay. Well, that's fine. You'll just see me as I pull this up. That's weird. It should have followed the... Oh. Oh, I was on the wrong screen anyway. That's weird. It should have stayed on Affinity Photo, but whatever. It doesn't matter. But the resolution on this display is 1920 by 1080, which for a 13-inch screen, that's pretty decent. I mean, it's not great. It's not like crazy high, impossible, you know, retina. Actually, is that retina quality? Maybe that is retina quality. But, yeah. So it's nice, sharp looking screen. I believe it's supposed to be color calibrated, but I don't know. I need to look into that and get some clarity. But yeah, it is a really nice screen. Oh yeah, it is definitely a nice product. Technically this is not the this is actually considered, believe it or not, a somewhat budget product. Which is weird to say, but it actually is. The big daddy product is the Cintiq line. And Cintiqs are full computers in the size of these tablets. And so everything is just actually running on the tablet instead of being hooked to a laptop. And so, you know, they're just Windows machines that are running on a tablet. It's sort of like having an iPad, except with the limitations of a Windows machine. There we go. All right. The Cintiq line has always looked really interesting to me. The one catch to it now is I feel like I'd almost rather just get an iPad. Maybe that's a little bit short-sighted. I don't know. But I feel like an iPad sort of gives you the same experience, but maybe better. It's hard to say without having used one. And I know a lot of people who, well, I don't know them super well. I know a few people who have Cintiqs, and they swear by them. So I can't tell if maybe those people are sort of just justifying their purchase, or, you know, they're used to the thing, so they like it more. And there's obviously something to be said for products that are made to be used by professionals, so they have certain features and capabilities that are designed for professionals, as opposed to a product like an iPad where software is just kind of made to it's not made to that same sort of professional standard. Let's see, I am on the right display, correct? Yeah, good. Double checking. Out of curiosity, have I lost? Oh, I haven't lost any subscribers with this stream. Yay. Not gonna lie, every time I do one of these, which has only been, what, this is the second in recent history, the third or fourth of all time. Every time I do one, it's like, how many people are gonna not remember that this is a channel that technically does a few different things, and they're gonna be like, what the hell's this? We don't care about photo editing. Get out of here with this. And they'll just unsubscribe. I always expect it to happen, but So far, I don't think anyone's ever actually unsubscribed from this. Or during one of these streams. I mean, it's bound to happen eventually. There's no way it won't, but... And I mostly expect it's going to happen... You know, it's going to be people who came for the game streams that are going to ditch out over something like that. Which, it is what it is. I understand, and I'm not too worried about it. Proof nobody uses subs for notifications. That is definitely not entirely true, but yeah, it's decently true. I mean, to be fair, there's what, 18 views? Yeah, this video so far has the stream has 18 views on it. I'm sure a few of those people probably stumbled across this looking at who knows what on YouTube. But I expect most of them are probably people that have notifications turned on for this channel's live streams, and you know, they saw a notification and were like, oh hey, he's streaming, I'll go check out what he's doing. Like go join him on a Fall Guys run. Then they get here and it's like, oh, well that's not Fall Guys. All right, never mind. I'll just come back next time. I'm assuming that's got to be at least half of the views that hit. Maybe I'm wrong. Man, I keep looking up at the screen in front of me and not in the... Wow, that color is way different. One of the things I didn't really look at, and I should... What does it look like on the Mac display? Oh, wow. I'm looking at 3 completely different colors for that burlap. The thing is, I'm more inclined to trust the Mac display, which is actually the color I like most, so that's good. On the Wacom screen, it looks yellow. Like, hot yellow. Not mustardy, but close. On my big Dell ultra-wide display, it looks a little paler than what I see on the Mac display. And the Mac display is showing me something that is kind of that nice, summery, woodsy color. I hate not knowing which people are more likely to see. But I also know that it's impossible to control. Like, just realistically, there's no such thing as controlling what people see when it comes to color. Yeah, I kind of fixed that. Not entirely, but I'd have to... Yeah, we'll do a little bit of... I normally don't want a rubber stamp to fix burlap, but... Ooh, that's way too much. 30%? No. 10? And let's give us something just like that. Yeah, it's not great, but that's as good as we're gonna try to make that. And it's good enough for this one. All right, let's see. 4 more. How are we doing on time? It's just after 8. Okay, I can slap through 4 more by 8:30. Okay. Oops. Gotta get those opacities set correctly each time. I keep forgetting. All right. So, let's see. David, you didn't actually say what your opinion is. I have a feeling your girlfriend probably at least asked your opinion, or maybe you have one. Possibly you have one that differs from her, I don't know. But what would you think is the better choice, backend or AI? Because I know I feel like I didn't really give so much of an answer as just sort of rambled about the two different things and where they stand in the industry now. Well, I guess I kind of gave an answer. I did say if I was going to college, probably would point someone to AI. If I was self-teaching or just trying to pick something up on the side, I'd probably go more back end, because AI feels like learning a whole discipline, whereas back-end development, for the most part, you're applying a lot of the programming knowledge you already have and just sort of adding a few new technologies to it. Okay, how about oh, that's a weird, looks like a hair, but I don't think it is. That's really odd. Again, I love that I can kind of be sort of imprecise with these tools, and the end result still looks pretty good. It's not always perfect, but who cares when you can fix a lot of little things in like just a few seconds? And you'd have to get so ridiculous about trying to examine these to find where the little mistakes are. Oops. Like that one. You don't know enough about AI. She has friends and resources that are very knowledgeable in infrastructure and cloud stuff. Feel like AI would be a pretty good endeavor, though. Yeah. Yeah, AI, like I said, it is a discipline, or well, not a discipline, but it's kind of a whole different field. Because you have to know about training, learning models, building out data sets, figuring out like how to arrange the training, there's so much stuff that goes into AI that is kind of like, again, a new frontier for it. And I mean, I don't know any of this stuff myself. I just picked up things from interviews and discussions about it, so I know at least some basic, like, I know some of these things exist as issues, but I don't know anything about how to deal with them. Okay, how are we doing on... big picture level? Pretty much have this one, I think, wrapped. Good. Back to an outside shot. I made these pictures mostly pretty warm in color. Oh, this is going to turn out to be maybe be an easy one. I'm not seeing a lot of dust issues. A little bit where it gets really shimmery, but and since there's no burlap, I don't have to fix anything in that. Oops. Oh, and actually, to your comment, she has friends and resources that are very knowledgeable in infrastructure and cloud. That is one of the other things. Front-end developers typically like, one, work at a place where they already can sort of like start taking on some responsibility for back-end stuff they want to. So it's a lot of times not even that hard to kind of make that hop. Just because they already work somewhere where it's easy enough to do that. If you don't work somewhere that's doing AI, it's kind of hard to make that jump. Because then you're like hunting for a new job. Also, a lot of times just knowing, it's the classic thing where if you know people who are in back-end stuff, a lot of times you can literally just be like, hey, do you know anyone who's looking for this? And almost everybody does. Or at least they could point you to somebody. Or they could hook you up with the recruiter that they used, or whatever else. Wonder if that's supposed to be there. What is that symbol? Between there and there. Oh! It's a microphone hole. That does not look like a microphone hole. That's really weird. It just does not look at all like a microphone hole. But okay, whatever. It's a nice thing about having the thing right here next to me, or in this instance, literally on me. Every once in a while I work on images and it's like, oh, if I want to check the thing, I'd have to go in the other room and grab it, or turn on a light and double check it. In this instance, just have it all handy. Oop. Okay. Gotta fix that stupid hair again. A tiny, obnoxious little hair. Okay, that's kind of eats into the edge of that gap a little, but not so much that it doesn't just look like kind of maybe sun hitting it strangely, which I'm okay with. Okay, good with that one. Oh, this one's gonna suck. So I took this one on the hood of my car, which is dirty. Okay. But maybe I'll get, maybe these will go kind of quick. We'll see. And strictly speaking, I don't have to get super finicky about this. No one's gonna care, and it's probably not gonna end up being a featured image, or it won't end up being a hero shot, so I'm probably not gonna need to get all the imperfections out of this one, but it'd be nice to get it kind of looking okay. At least I'm gonna get all this really big ugly stuff out of the way. Okay, that got a spot there, spots there. Yeah, I can kind of just swipe through some of these spots too, and it doesn't matter. It mostly cleans up everything with some fairly quick swipes. This is going to be a little bit uglier. Yeah, that went fairly quick. So yeah, this is not the worst image. The one I used to start the stream you should have seen how dark that shot was. It should have been unusable. I actually managed to bring that back, and outside of the fact that it's a little on the fuzzy side when you zoom in, it looks really nice. Oops. It's funny because it's probably the shot I'm most likely to use as the hero image, but it's also, without question, the actual worst shot that I have. Okay, let's... make that disappear again, and okay. It's good enough no one will be able to see that pixel of extra whatever. I know a lot of this is just kind of blurring, but seeing as it's a reflective surface, a lot of the blurry actually looks kind of better. Or I think it does. Normally I hate when details look blurry because it usually means that someone spent a lot of time doing very poor editing like I'm doing right now. But on reflective surfaces, a lot of times it just looks kind of natural. It's nice because I can mostly be very, very haphazard with this. I don't have to be like super spot on. There are a few things to remove or go back over a couple of times, but for the most part, this image does not need that level of attention. It's proven by the fact I can just big brush, swipe through a bunch of stuff up there. It's all golden. All right. Fix up a couple of these last little dust spots. Oops, way too big a brush. So, sort of speaking of development stuff, I don't know exactly when I'm going to get to it, but since Visual Studio on Mac is being killed off in August of next year, a little project I've wanted to do for a while is to make my movie post tools more automated. And since I actually actively use Visual Studio for one of the tools, Strictly speaking, by the way, just to acknowledge it, in theory, you can move everything over to Visual Studio Code on the Mac, and it should all work. I know I can probably just do that with the existing tools, but I want to make them more automated anyway. So one of the things I'm going to do is actually turn it from the sort of patchwork of tools that I already have. Okay, like this. That's good. One last one. Oh wow, there's way less dust on this one than I thought. That's good. I might just have to clean up a little bit of burlap and be done with this one. But what I'm looking to do is I want to take the existing stuff that I have and turn it into a client-server application. And there's a reason for this. What I want to do is set up the server on my NAS. And that way, what it can do is, whether my computer's running or not, I can just let it occasionally reach out to various services. And by services, I mean Amazon, Apple, Google Play, various others. Let it basically do a bunch of like searches and web crawling, or web scraping rather, to figure out, oh hey, do you have such and such movie actually available to rent yet, or rent, buy, whatever. And I just want to let that run in the background. And as long as it's running on the NAS, it doesn't matter if my computer's running or anything like that. And then I'm going to write a client application for this server that does a lot of the data entry. It can do a lot of the management stuff, so on and so forth. So it's kind of a good tool for learning. I specifically want to learn MongoDB. Because I think that's probably a good territory to sort of pick up. And is that why I was complaining about Docker? No, the Docker complaints had to do with something else. But I am going to be using, when I do build this, it is actually going to be in a Docker container. That way I can quickly move it from server to server if I want to. So yeah, ultimately, yes, Docker will become a complaint again in the future. But no, that was not the reason specifically I was complaining about Docker. Now I was complaining about Docker because I was trying to get a service running on my NAS that would what it does is it basically works. Okay, so the specific service I was trying to get running is called Gluten. That is spelled GLUETUN. And what it does is it's a service that you can direct other applications on your NAS to use this service, and the service reaches out to a VPN. So basically, apps that do not have VPN support built in, you can get them to go through a VPN. And you know, there's some things you just want running on VPNs, for various reasons, and for testing purposes and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's the reasoning behind it. And one of these days I very possibly will be like spinning up multiple VPNs so that I can test like or so that I can reach out and check different video sources and things like that. So it will factor in one of these days to that movie service. Just not, that's not what I was specifically setting it up for this time around. And I don't want everything to be running through a VPN. There's some things that I'd rather have just local. And as far as MongoDB, I got the impression I don't know. Yeesh, that cable is just looking wrong to me. I got the impression that it was not going to be that hard to learn, but I don't really know for sure. I've only given a very, very lightweight cursory look to it so far. You know what? I could fix that cable and make it perfect, but by the time someone's looking at it at this size, no one cares. Okay, I'm not going to fix that little hair down there. It would be a huge pain in the ass. Okay, I think that about wraps that. So from here, the next steps are going to be saving out the files to the new file names that I will give them. Resizing them in the process, and that'll be that. So yay, that'll be a thing. And let's see, how did I do on time? Oh, hey, I'm pretty close. I almost got the time right. I'm just a few minutes over, so I'd call that good. Anyway, yeah, the thing is, I need to get some sort of database service back under my belt. MongoDB makes a lot of sense for it. I also want to build. I built a lot of backend services in the past, but I kind of want to refresh my experience with it. So that's part of the incentive for this project. The big question mark for me is what I'm going to do as far as front-end service. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to keep building a Mac app because that's what makes sense to me. I've been doing that a while. I know it fairly well. The only catch to that is very obviously it's probably the platform the fewest companies are looking for developers to do. So yeah, I don't know that really pans out, but getting the back end stuff worked out is really, that alone is enough for most people. And then I know web stuff reasonably well. I know a lot pretty well anyway. I just need refreshers on a lot of it. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna wrap it. So for anyone who is watching this video later, of course, if you'd like to, first off, thank you for coming by and watching it. Thank you for sticking around to this far into the video. If you'd like to help support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to David, who's been hanging out in the chat room. And Carson, Diablo, Curvy Mermaid, and Austin. Took me a second. Because they are excellent supporters of the channel. They've been helping keep this channel going for quite a while. Let's see. And As usual, I should be back Wednesday for a Ramblecast. That is a tech podcast style show, and I already have, what is it, 3 or 4 topics that normally I'm not very good about putting together a topic list in advance of Wednesday, but I've got a few good ones. So yeah, anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed this. I will be back soon, and I'm going to go, well, 1, rest the voice, 2, watch a little TV, eat, blah blah blah. You get the idea. Anyway, with that, David, take it easy. I will catch you on Wednesday, and of course in Discord anyway. And to everyone, I wish you a good night.